I dared my boyfriend to see other people as a loyalty test. He agreed, and it destroyed my life. My eyes are glued to a perfect rectangle of hardwood under the TV, a spot just a shade lighter than the rest of the floor. It's where Chase's PlayStation used to be. That console was the most stubborn piece of him in this space, his anchor. Now, like everything else, it's gone. His worn-out sneakers aren't by the door. His collection of graphic novels has vanished from the bookshelf, leaving awkward gaps like missing teeth. Even his favorite chipped coffee mug, the one I always complained about, is gone from the drying rack. The silence is the worst part. It's so absolute, it feels like a physical weight. The air smells sterile, a bizarre mix of leftover cardboard and a sharp lemon cleaner. The kind the professional crew he hired must have used after they took the last box. I keep thinking about that. He didn't just leave, he had the breakup professionally sanitized. So polite. So goddamn cruel. I'm not crying. I think I'm either past that point or maybe I just haven't gotten there yet. I'm just numb, staring at the ghost of a game console and trying to breathe. And here's the truly sick part, the thought that's been running on a loop in my head until the words have lost all meaning. I won. I played a stupid, manipulative game and I won. I got exactly the reaction I was engineering. So why am I sitting alone in this empty, lemon-scented apartment feeling like I haven't just lost, but like I've been utterly annihilated? It was only 3 months ago that I sat on this very same couch, curled up next to him, and pitched the idea of an open relationship. I remember the exact words I used, stolen from some self-important psychology podcast I'd been mainlining for weeks. I carefully modulated my voice, making it sound calm and intellectual as I talked about personal growth, dismantling toxic monogamy, and evolving beyond possessiveness. I even threw in the word compersion, the idea of finding joy in your partner's joy with another person, and watched it hang in the air between us like a puff of smoke. I made it sound like I was this enlightened, forward-thinking partner, offering him a gift of freedom and trust. I probably even used the phrase, "Our love is strong enough to withstand this." God, I make myself sick just thinking about the sheer, calculated performance of it all. Of course, it was all bullshit. Every single syllable. Deep down, in the ugly, snarled part of my soul I don't like to look at, I knew the truth. I wasn't offering him freedom. I was building him a cage disguised as a playground. My entire theory was based on one single, arrogant assumption. That Chase, my sweet, predictable, utterly devoted Chase, would never, ever take me up on it. He loved me too much. He was too conventional. The plan was for him to be horrified, to refuse passionately, to declare that he could never imagine being with anyone but me. His rejection would be the ultimate validation, the final, irrefutable proof that I was the center of his universe. That's all I wanted. Not an open relationship, just the ego-stroking triumph of him turning it down. He listened so intently, his brow furrowed in that way it always did when he was trying to genuinely understand something. He didn't get angry. He didn't immediately refuse. He just processed it. He asked questions. Practical, logical, Chase-like questions. What if one of us develops feelings? How would we handle scheduling? What are the boundaries around mutual friends? He treated my toxic little test like a serious, legitimate proposal, a problem to be solved with logic and care. And then, after a long silence that had my heart pounding with anticipation for my victory, he said, "Okay. As long as we are 100% honest with each other, and this is something we both truly want, I'm willing to try." For a split second, a wave of ice-cold panic washed over me. This wasn't in the script, but the panic was quickly replaced by a surge of arrogant pride. He trusted me that much. He was so secure in our love that he'd agree to this. He saw it as a pact, a new set of rules for us to navigate together. He saw it as a testament to our trust. I saw it as a trap he'd just willingly walked into, and the stage was perfectly set for my grand finale. He leaned over and kissed me, a soft, reassuring kiss that I now realize was meant to seal a promise. I kissed him back, my mind already celebrating a victory he didn't even know he was competing for. For the first month, it was perfect. Blissfully, intoxicatingly perfect. Nothing actually changed, which was the whole point. We went out for dinner, we watched movies, we slept tangled up in each other every night. But underneath it all, I was humming with a secret, smug satisfaction. I had proven my theory. Chase was mine, completely and utterly. The open relationship was just a theoretical concept, a testament to our enlightened trust, and I felt a sense of power I'd never known before. I was in complete control. Then came the first test. We were making dinner, chopping vegetables side by side. It was a Tuesday, I think. Chase was telling me about his day at the office, something about a frustrating project manager, and then he mentioned it, so casually it was like a knife sliding between my ribs. "Oh, hey, Evelyn from marketing is having a birthday thing this weekend," he said, not even looking up from the onion he was dicing. "A bunch of people are going to that new wine bar downtown. She mentioned I should come along." My hand froze over the bell pepper I was slicing. Evelyn, I knew who she was. He'd mentioned her before, smart, funny, into the same weird sci-fi shows he was. A jolt of pure, cold adrenaline shot through me. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to have options. I didn't lash out. I didn't accuse him. I was smarter than that. Instead, I just deflated. I put the knife down very slowly. I pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes and let out a long, shaky sigh. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately, his voice laced with concern. "Nothing," I mumbled. "Just suddenly, a blinding headache is coming on. It must be the stress from that new project at work. It's been brutal." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just became small. I shuffled over to the couch and curled up under a throw blanket, making myself look as fragile and pathetic as possible. When he came over and sat on the edge of the coffee table, I made sure to tell him in a weak little voice, "No, you should still go. Seriously, don't worry about me. I'll be fine." It was a masterpiece of passive aggression. I was handing him the gun and daring him to shoot. Of course, he didn't. He spent the next hour fussing over me, getting me water, dimming the lights. The next morning, as he was getting ready for work, he kissed my forehead and said, "I texted Evelyn and told her I can't make it. I'd rather have a quiet weekend here with you. Make sure you get some rest." A sickly, sweet wave of triumph washed over me. It worked. He chose me. But it was immediately followed by a sour aftertaste of disgust. I knew exactly what I had done. I had faked an illness to manipulate the person I loved. But the relief was so much stronger than the guilt. I buried the shame deep down and told myself it was just a small course correction, a necessary little test to confirm what I already knew. I had no idea I was actually yanking the wheel and aiming us straight for a cliff. The real detonation happened on a Thursday night. It had been a few weeks since the wine bar incident, and a dangerous complacency had settled in. I had won that round so easily that I started to believe I was invincible, that I had Chase perfectly calibrated. He came home late from work, looking tired but with a strange energy buzzing around him, a kind of nervous resolve. He dropped his keys in the bowl by the door with a clatter that was just a little too loud, a sound that snagged my attention from the book I was pretending to read. He didn't come to kiss me hello like he usually did. Instead, he stood in the doorway of the living room, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. "Hey," he said. "Can we talk for a sec?" My stomach did a slow, cold flip. I put my book down, marking the page carefully as if this were just a minor interruption. "So, you know Evelyn," he started, and my entire nervous system went on high alert. The name itself felt like a threat. "She's transferring to the Denver office. Her last day is next Tuesday. The team is taking her out for a farewell happy hour, and afterwards, she asked if I wanted to grab a drink, just the two of us, to say a proper goodbye." He was looking right at me, his gaze unwavering, trying so hard to project transparency. He was following the rules, our rules, the rules that I wrote, never believing they'd be used. "I told her I would," he continued, his voice steady and clear, a testament to his commitment to our pact. "I wanted to tell you first before it happened. That was the most important rule, right? 100% honesty, no surprises." He did everything right. He was being respectful, transparent, and adhering to the letter of our insane agreement. And that's what made me snap. A part of my brain, the rational part, was screaming at me. "This is your chance. Be the cool, secure girlfriend you pretended to be. Say, 'Okay, honey, have a great time, I'll miss you.'" But that voice was drowned out by a tidal wave of pure, primal panic. It wasn't just about a drink. In my mind, I saw it all. Them laughing at a dimly lit bar, her hand brushing his as she made a point, him feeling a spark of something new, something I couldn't control. The panic wiped out every rational thought, every ounce of the enlightened persona I had so carefully constructed. All that was left was the raw, terrified core of my insecurity. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I did something far worse. I went cold. A glacial calm settled over me, and I looked at him as if he were a complete stranger. "Okay," I said. My voice was a whisper, but it landed in the quiet room like a block of ice. He visibly relaxed, a small, relieved breath escaping his lips. He thought he'd navigated the minefield. "Great," he said, a tentative smile touching his lips. "I'm really glad we can be this open about things." That was his mistake, thinking this was about openness. I let him have that hopeful moment before I snatched it away and crushed it in my fist. "Go," I said, my voice flat and dead. "Go have fun." I paused, letting the silence stretch until it was almost screaming. Then I looked him dead in the eye, and my voice was laced with a venom I didn't know I possessed. "I just never thought you'd actually want to." It was the emotional equivalent of a nuclear bomb. In that single sentence, I revealed the whole thing was a sham. I weaponized his honesty. I confirmed that my love was conditional, my trust was a lie, and the entire open relationship was a loyalty test he had just failed by passing. The look on his face, it wasn't anger. It was something much more devastating. It was a slow-motion sequence of comprehension. First, confusion, then a flicker of disbelief. And finally, the dawning, horrified realization, like watching a photograph develop in a darkroom to reveal something monstrous. He looked at me as if my face were a mask that had just slipped off, revealing the ugly, manipulative creature beneath. He realized he hadn't been in a partnership. He'd been a pawn in a game he never even knew he was playing. I expected an argument. I was braced for yelling, for him to defend himself, for a dramatic, tearful fight that would end with him pulling me into his arms and reassuring me that I was the only one he ever wanted. That's how it was supposed to go. That was the climax of my stupid, self-serving play, but Chase didn't follow the script. He didn't get angry. He didn't raise his voice. He just shut down. The light in his eyes, that warm, loving spark that had always been there for me, just went out. It was like watching a candle being snuffed. The shock on his face slowly hardened into a profound, weary disappointment. He didn't even go to the farewell party. He just stood there for a long moment, the silence in the room growing heavier and heavier until I thought I would suffocate from it. Finally, he sank onto the armchair opposite the couch, not looking at me but at some point on the wall between us. When he spoke, his voice was hollowed out, completely devoid of the emotion I was trying to provoke. "It was never about the open relationship, was it?" he said. "It wasn't a question. It was a statement, a verdict. This whole time, it was a test, a goddamn loyalty test." I opened my mouth to deny it, to launch into a fresh performance of wounded innocence, but the words wouldn't come. He saw right through me, and for the first time, I had no more tricks. "I can't live like this, Marina," he said, his voice quiet but carrying an unshakable finality. "I can't live in a relationship where I'm constantly being tested, where honesty is a trap. I feel like such an idiot. I genuinely tried. I read articles. I listened to you. I took your feelings seriously, and it was all just a game." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were full of a sorrow so deep it felt like it could swallow me whole. "I'm exhausted. I can't trust you anymore." That night, he packed a duffel bag with a few days' worth of clothes. He moved with a calm, methodical efficiency that terrified me more than any shouting match could have. I sat on the couch, frozen, watching him. I kept waiting for him to break, to turn around, to tell me we could fix this. He never did. "I'm going to stay at Dylan's for a bit," he said from the doorway, not even looking back. "I need some space to think." I let him go. I was still convinced this was just a temporary setback. I thought he was just hurt and needed to cool off. I told myself he'd be back in a day or two, that a grand apology from me would smooth everything over. I was so arrogant, so certain of my own indispensability, that I truly believed he couldn't live without me. I had no idea that when he walked out that door, our relationship had already died, and I was just sitting in its tomb. He was gone for a week of agonizing silence. My initial arrogance quickly curdled into a frantic, gnawing anxiety. I bombarded his phone with a chaotic volley of texts, cycling through every stage of emotional whiplash. First came the saccharine, pleading apologies. "Baby, I'm so sorry, I was just scared, I love you so much." Then, when those were met with silence, came the angry accusations. How can you just abandon us like this, after everything? And finally, the pathetic, desperate bargaining. Please just come home, we can go back to how it was. No more open relationship, I promise. Each message I sent into the void felt like a scream in a vacuum. No response. Not even the cruel validation of a read receipt. He finally texted me on the following Thursday, a week to the day he'd left. The message was short and brutally clinical. Can we meet for coffee? There's a place halfway between my office and the apartment. 3 p.m. I spent hours getting ready, putting on his favorite dress, doing my makeup just right, rehearsing a speech that was the perfect blend of remorse and love. I walked into that coffee shop with a stomach full of butterflies, still clinging to the hope that this was a reconciliation. It wasn't. He was already there, a cup of black coffee untouched in front of him. He looked different. The exhaustion was still there, etched around his eyes, but it was overlaid with a calm, heartbreaking resolve. There was no room for negotiation in his expression. He didn't let me launch into my speech. He just said, "I came to tell you that I'm moving out. I can't do this anymore, Marina." And that was it. He had movers scheduled for the next day while I was at work. He was being practical, efficient, minimizing the drama. He was treating our breakup like a business transaction. The real collapse began after that. I called Kara, our mutual friend, expecting a sympathetic ear, expecting her to take my side and tell me he was overreacting. I sobbed down the phone to her, painting myself as the heartbroken victim. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Kara finally spoke, her voice wasn't comforting. It was weary, strained with a fatigue I now recognized as the same one I'd seen in Chase. "Honestly, Marina, what did you expect?" she said, her words gentle but firm. "You handed him a gun, and then you got furious with him for holding it. You set an impossible test. He could only pass by failing and only fail by passing. It's not fair. You can't do that to someone you love." Her words weren't a slap in the face. They were worse. They were a mirror held up to show me the twisted, ugly reality of what I had done. For the first time, the intricate web of self-deception I had spun around myself completely unraveled. Kara hadn't condemned me. She had simply stated the obvious, undeniable truth. And in that moment, the floor of my world didn't just crack. It disintegrated into dust. It's been a month now, 31 days to be exact. I know because I mark them off on a calendar, like a prisoner counting down a sentence with no end. Chase has blocked me everywhere. My number, WhatsApp, Instagram, even my email address gets an immediate bounce-back message. The digital wall he's built is absolute. So, I've become a ghost. A pathetic 21st century ghost. I have a burner Instagram account with a generic username and no profile picture. From this sad little hideout, I watch his life continue, frame by frame. He didn't post anything for the first couple of weeks, and a sick part of me hoped he was miserable, curled up in the dark just like me. But then the updates started. A picture of him and Dylan at a basketball game, both of them grinning, holding beers. A shot of a mountain peak from a weekend hike, captioned, "Needed this." A close-up of a new, ridiculously complex mechanical keyboard he'd built, the kind of nerdy project he loves. Each post is a perfectly normal, healthy sign of someone moving on, and each one feels like a fresh stab wound. He's not performing sadness for an audience that can no longer see him. He's just living. Then, last night I saw it, the final judgment. It wasn't on his profile, but on Evelyn's. She'd posted a gallery of photos from her farewell. "Goodbye, Seattle, you've been amazing," the caption read. I scrolled through them with a trembling thumb, my heart pounding against my ribs. There were pictures of her with various colleagues, laughing, hugging. And then the last photo in the set, a group shot. There in the back was Chase. He was standing next to her, not touching, nothing inappropriate, but he was smiling. A genuine, relaxed, happy smile. The kind he used to give me. They probably never went for that drink. It probably never meant anything. But that doesn't matter. The image is seared into my brain. I keep going back to it, zooming in on their faces, on the space between them, torturing myself with possibilities. I refresh her feed, his feed, the feeds of their mutual friends, over and over, looking for clues for anything. It's a special kind of hell, one of my own making. I played a game to prove I was the center of his world, and the prize for winning was getting to watch, from the outside. as his world keeps turning perfectly fine without me in it.